In this video, we're going to take a look at a pink ink by Private Reserve, Shell Pink. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the pink ink playlist, so if you want to find more of them, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread. We get shading that comes through in the stub. It comes through in the extra fine and in the medium. It shades very well here. Now the extra fine is the lightest tone on the page, while the medium and the stub are the same tone. The extra fine took 4 seconds to dry and medium 6. The scrubby of the extra fine shows the color variation that we're definitely getting. The medium doesn't show it, but it's definitely there. And the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Lamy Safari with a 1.5 stub was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding. Minor ghosting going on, which I was a bit surprised here with. We have no feather, no spread, well, we do have a little bit of shading coming through in the stub. It shows pretty well in the extra fine, not really in the medium. Extra fine's much lighter than the medium or stub. Extra fine took 7 seconds to dry, while the medium took 10. The scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation. We're definitely getting it. Medium shows none, and we had none, and a smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is that this is a true pink. It really pushes its way up, gathers at the top. There's nothing but a pink dye here. The one on the right is allowed to dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water. And it looks really the same. But I'm hoping I can get it to come through on camera, especially on the right half of this. If you look at the very top, you see the faintest bit. It almost looks like it would be a little bit of a water line above that pink, but it's not. It's a very, very light turquoise that I am truly hoping comes through in the picture I put up. Oh, and we're not expecting any resistance here. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, shading in the stub. Some shading. It's actually nowhere near as good in the extra fine as it has been. And in the medium, it's still showing up fairly decent. The extra fine's the lightest tone on the page. The stub is quite a bit darker than the extra fine, while the medium's quite a bit darker than the stub. Extra fine took 4 seconds to dry and the medium took 6. The scrubby for both aren't really showing color variation, but it is showing up in the writing, and the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear's allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, while the lowercase h does have some blowout, it's such a light tone that I want to say it performed much better than I expected. Now, I would not use it in a note-taking situation, but I'm very impressed with its performance there, especially from the chromatography and what we see here with water, where water is completely removing it. It's probably why it only took water to clean it out of my pen. Pen Flush does everything that water does and nothing more, because you can't do more than all of it. The 1/3 bleach solution, of course you're not going to need it, but it's gone there. The next writing sample is done on monocoque paper. No bleeding, minor ghosting. Always a shock with a pink ink. There's no feather, no spread. There's shading in the stub, shading in the extra fine, minor bits of shading in the medium. The medium's by far the darkest tone on the page, while the extra fine and stub are the same tone. Extra fine took 4 seconds to dry, medium took 5. Scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, we get it. The medium shows none, but we do get some, just not as much. And the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Shell Pink has a viscosity of 2.22, making it normal. The last writing sample is done on TWSBI notebook paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, no spread, no shading in the stub, no shading in the extra fine, no shading in the medium. Now the extra fine and the stub are the same tone, while the medium's much darker than the rest of them. Extra fine took 5 seconds to dry and a medium took 8. Scrubby for both. Show no color variation because we got none, and the smear test says you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve's Shell Pink, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I like putting purple with pink, and I chose Papier Plume's Violet. If you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Shell Pink? This is a dangerous ink. It can become too light to comfortably read, but in its darker tones, it's very nice and usable. It also shades very well. Not a loss, just needs the right pen. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? We need the darker tone and maybe willing to sacrifice some of that shading. I would go with a medium flow medium or a wet medium pen to get the best color. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Pilot's Mixable Sepia.